At this point, I've accepted it. Hey guys, how is everybody doing? And welcome to the final movie in the Insidious franchise. Actually, no, scratch that, rewind. Welcome to my final review in my Insidious review series. With the release of Insidious out of the further tomorrow or today, whenever you're watching this video. Hello, people in the future. Today, I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on a pretty unnecessary sequel with the Insidious The Red Door. Now, I'm going to get this out of the way now. Yes, I do believe that this movie is extremely unnecessary. I do not believe that this movie should have been made. I don't really think that we needed the Lambert family to come back. And I understand everybody's hatred and anger towards this movie for even existing. I've seen the fans, I've seen people say that I don't like this movie. Hell, I've even seen people say that it's a terrible conclusion to this family, which I disagree, but I do understand the frustration and I do understand why so many people dislike the movie. However, I do think it's still pretty good even outside of its flaws. Hell, I think all of these movies are pretty decent, so I guess maybe I shouldn't be the one to ask. But nevertheless, I'm going to give you my thoughts on this movie. But starting off with my positives on Insidious The Red Door, my first positive is Patrick Wilson. Now, I've talked about him numerous times throughout this review series, mainly with the first two movies, and obviously, since this movie focuses on the Lambert family, which obviously will include Patrick Wilson, not only do we get to see Patrick Wilson give a pretty good performance and pretty interesting performance, I could say, of how he's trying to understand of what is going on because he's dealing with like this fog over his brain. He's dealing with a lot of personal issues. His mother just passed away. His ex-wife just divorced him. His son pretty much hates him for no apparent reason, it seems. And, I think that just performance wise, I think Patrick Wilson gives another pretty good performance. But the standout to me and what makes him so good in this movie is not only did he star in the movie, but he's actually the director of the movie. Now, I don't know the behind the scenes story. I don't know the story of how he became the director. I don't know if it was a desperation move. I don't know if this is just something that he's wanted to work on. Whatever the reason might be, I think that he did a damn good job of directing this movie, and it seems that working with James Wan through a lot of his movies, with the Insidious movies, The Conjuring, and Aquaman. Huh. But either way, is working with James Wan with all of these movies, it seems like he took a lot of inspiration from him. I see a lot of similarities in his directing style and his certain, you know, editing choices and how he films the scare sequences or whatever. It seemed like he took a lot of influence from James Wan, and it's very, very apparent in this movie because they have worked together numerous times with The Conjuring and Insidious and so many other movies, to where it seemed like Patrick Wilson took a lot of influence from James Wan, and that's very apparent in this movie. However, the main thing that I want to praise him for is the jump scares. Now, I've always considered haunted house movies jump scare fest movies, especially this franchise alone, even though I do think there are surprisingly pretty good scares in this franchise, especially in the third movie. But I got to give Patrick Wilson praise because there are so many well-directed sequences throughout this movie that genuinely make some of the scares some of the best of the franchise, especially in the beginning of the movie where he's standing there texting Dalton, and in the background it's very blurry and hazy and you can't really see him. The main focus is on him, but if you pay good attention, you can see a figure of a person slowly walking towards his car. And I really, really enjoy that. And that's how a lot of the movie is. Like, there's a scene where he's trying to basically play, like, match the card or whatever, so he can see if it's maybe his memory is getting foggy or whatever. Maybe there's something going on there. So he tries to test himself. And every time he lifts it, you can see, like, a figure standing outside. And, like, sometimes he'll lift it and it won't be there. That is one of the better sequences in this movie. Now, obviously, there are a lot of sequences where it's big, loud booms or whatever, like a lot of haunted house movies are, or a bunch of movies like this are. But there are a lot of moments where there's no sound playing, like the scene where he's getting an MRI done, and there's just like a hand slowly creeping up on him, and I
Let me out!
Let's go.
Whoa, no touchy. No touchy. No touch.
think that it was a very well directed sequence, but Patrick Wilson's style of jump scares in this movie were awesome, and I wouldn't hate to see if he was announced to come back as a director for this franchise. Hell, he doesn't even need to star in the movie. I wouldn't mind if he was fully behind the camera, which maybe that should have been his main focus because he's not in the movie physically and as performance wise as he is in the other movies because obviously he's the director, so he's more behind the camera and he's more focused on that. So I do think that kind of hurts the movie a little bit because we don't see Josh all that much in this movie. But when he is on screen, he does still give a damn good performance because it's Patrick Wilson. But I got to give him nothing but praise for his directing duties and just taking over the director's chair. I don't know if it was a desperation move, but if it was a desperation move, it was a pretty damn good move. And I really enjoy the theme and the story of this film of Josh and Dalton, excuse me, of Josh and Dalton trying to fix their relationship. Now, it doesn't necessarily explain as to what might have happened for their relationship to get damaged. All that's kind of really alluded to is that Josh, excuse me, Jesus Christ, is that Josh didn't really show up all that much, that he was kind of away from the family because of this foggy, memory of his to where he thought there was something wrong to where he had to get away or whatever. So that kind of split them apart, and obviously they don't remember anything about the further because they got hypnotized or whatever. And so it seems that their relationship seemed to be broken because simply Josh didn't show up all that much, which sadly that's a lot of that's a lot of parents. But I really enjoy the story of them trying to simply fix the relationship. Now, honest, I would have loved if it were more of, a physical thing instead of over like messages and voicemails or whatever. I really liked it if it were more like physical interactions outside of like that one scene when Dalton first moves into his dorm. That's really the only scene that you kind of get. But this whole movie is about them fixing their relationship. Now, I myself have had personal issues with my dad. Nothing bad. We've just had our moments to where maybe things just don't go well, and it, shit just goes wrong every now and then. That's just what life is. So there are moments in this to where I can somewhat understand, and I can understand what the movie's trying to say. So for me personally, it kind of stuck with me a little bit. Now obviously, I would have liked it if it were more, on screen and physically, but what we do get in the story that this movie is being told, I really like it. And I saw this get pointed out in a video when I watched, when I tried to find some information about this movie, is some guy pointed out that the first jump scare or the first the monster sequence where I was just talking about where it's like blurry in the background while he's texting Dalton, that's a very good way of kind of interpreting what this movie is. The jump scares and the horror side of this movie, it's all in the background being blurry while the main focus is Josh and Dalton. That's a very good way of looking at this movie, and I can't help but think of it that way. And my last positive is something that I really enjoy about this movie and how why this movie kind of sticks out to me outside of the other Insidious sequels because this movie does feel a lot different from the other previous installments. Is we don't have Tucker, we don't have Lee Winnell's character, I already forget his name, and we don't have Lin Shaye's character taking the spotlight like they usually do in the other films where they show up. This is a story simply just focusing on Josh and Dalton. I talked about how it's a story about a father and a son fixing their relationship, and I was very happy to see that Dalton and Josh were the main focus throughout the entire movie. I feel like that made the movie better. I feel like that made the movie more entertaining, and I honestly feel like that's what this movie should have been. If this is going to be a concluding chapter of the Lambert family, I felt like they did a smart idea of just having it be Josh and Dalton's movie. Now, obviously, I miss Lin Shaye's Elise. I miss Tucker. I miss Lee Winnell's characters because they are, some of the heart and soul of this franchise. And they do get smaller little cameo parts in this movie, which I'll never say no to that. But I was very glad to see that this was just Dalton and Josh's story, and it made sense to go in that route. But now moving on to my mixed aspects. And the one mixed aspect that I do have about the movie is seeing the Lambert family back. And I say that kind of very loosely. I just talked about it where I was talking about how this is a story about Josh and Dalton and them fixing the relationship. That is the main focus of the movie, and I like that. But we don't really necessarily see the whole Lambert family either. We don't really see the mom. We don't see the younger brother. We don't see the fucking sister at all, besides the opening of the funeral. We don't see her fucking at all. She is shown 0 times after the funeral, so let's get that out of the way. But where my issue is, not only is it just kind of an issue that we don't see the rest of the Lambert family, But this is a movie that like I talked about at the beginning, that I don't think needed to happen. I don't think we needed to see the Lambert family come back. I don't think we needed to see these characters or cast or whatever. We didn't need to see these guys come back. I felt like the conclusion that we got with chapter 2 was good enough. However, it is good to see to see this cast come back. It is good to see these guys get another story in this franchise. So I won't complain about that, but I don't know. There's just something in me that's just like, this didn't need to exist. Now, back when I first watched it, I didn't really care, but after rewatching all these movies and actually kind of enjoying them a lot more, I'm in that group of people saying this didn't need to happen. We didn't need this movie, and it's kind of stupid that we do have it. But seeing the Lambert family come back is cool, but it's not something that needed to happen. But now moving on to my negatives. And the first negative that I have about this movie is we never get an explanation as to why the further or these ghosts or whatever or why they're coming back to haunt Josh and Dalton. Now, it seemed like at the end of chapter 2 that they got rid of them or whatever. It seemed like Lin Shaye banished them away from the Lambert family or whatever. That's pretty much what we got at the end of chapter 2. But in this movie, they never go out of their way to try to explain why the further is back. We never get an explanation why Lipstick Face is back. We don't get any some sort of explanation as to that. And I feel like that creates a lot of holes because one, like, why the fuck are you back? Why are you haunting us? There should be a better reason. And two, you should not be doing this pretty much. Like, you should have been banished, but what the fuck do I know, I guess? Maybe there's something I missed. There's something I just simply don't understand. I don't know. But I feel like there should have been an explanation throughout this movie as to why the further is back. Why are they being haunted again? Why all of a sudden are they starting to remember because they are digging deep in the back of their memory type thing? Like, they don't try to explain it. And they never try to explain either as to how looking at the back of their memory makes them remember all of this or slowly has them remember. Like, they got hypnotized. Like, they just like, there is no such thing as the further. All you will remember is what happened after Dalton's like, you all you will remember is Dalton's coma or whatever. Like, that's all you're going to remember. Okay, cool. Their memory should be washed like away. Like, none of this should be going on. But how the fuck, looking at the very back of their memory, would that make that come up? Now, maybe there's something about the human brain I don't know. Maybe our memory is stronger than we think. I genuinely don't know. And they never go out of their way to explain it other. It's just, oh, he looked at the back of his memory. I don't know. And I honestly just think it's fucking frustrating and annoying that we have to go through the whole process of rewatching these characters, rediscover the further, and rediscover all of this shit, and like learning about the further and learning about these monsters and learning the rules or whatever. I think that's just fucking aggravating.
Well, it's Groundhog Day. Again?
Because if I wanted to see them learn about it, I would just rewatch the first movie. Because I think it's just fucking annoying and infuriating that we just got to rewatch everything that we already know about these characters and relearn everything that we have already learned about the further throughout the other four fucking entries that I just rewatched throughout this franchise. I think that is absolutely infuriating because one, I just saw them do all this shit, and two, why the fuck do I want to rewatch that shit all over again? I just saw this shit, and we all and they should like it's just frustrating, okay? Like I just find it infuriating that the fact that we have to rewatch them learn this shit all over again. But overall, guys, I don't mind Insidious The Red Door. I do think it's a pretty unnecessary sequel, but I still enjoy it. I think it's a solid installment in this franchise. I don't think there's a single bad Insidious movies. I think they're all just okay in my mind. But I do think that this is another solid entry in this franchise. I honestly think that if you think that the end of chapter 2 is a great way for this family to end, I wouldn't blame you if you don't want to watch this movie. But if you want to see the Lambert family again, go ahead and do yourself a favor and check this out. Or maybe you're just a gigantic Insidious fan and you want to watch all these movies, then go ahead and do yourself a favor and go watch this movie. But in the end, I just find this movie pretty pointless. So, what do you guys think about Insidious: The Red Door? Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? Do you actually think this is a pretty compelling conclusion to these characters? Do you think that they just pretty much shit the bed and and you think that they should have never made this movie and just pretty much ruined the ending of these characters? Let me know in the comments below and we shall talk about it. And if you like this video, like it. If you love to subscribe, hit the bell notification so you will get notified for all my latest videos and for future videos just like this. Thank you all so much for watching. And of course, until my next video, see you all next time.